Hey everybody, it's Emily at Arg Schooling, and today I'm going to be doing a kind of an unhauling video where I'm going to basically KonMari my bookshelves. Gotten a lot of questions about how I organize the books and how do I purge them, and I don't necessarily have any kind of method to this. I do attempt to organize my books. Like I do have there is some method to the madness, but it is mostly madness. I am probably what would be considered a book hoarder. I think this started internally anyway. As a child, I would have all my favorite books, and then every now and then my father, who was an elementary school teacher, would just take them. And my books would just be gone, and they would go to his classroom because, you know, teachers have no money to buy supplies. The school doesn't really provide you with that. So he would just like borrow my books and they would just be gone. And I've lost so many of my childhood favorites that way, and I've tried to find them again as an adult. And sometimes I've been successful, and literally there's books that I'm just like, well, it was blue. So I have no idea what it was and I can't find it anymore and it's just gone. As an adult, I have this like need to keep all my books because I might need them someday. And also as a parent, I have this urge to hang on to everything because my kids might want them. Because there's a lot of books that I had as a child that I wish I had for my children. I wish I still had them so that I can hand them off and be like, this was my favorite thing when I was your age. I feel like I shouldn't ever get rid of anything. But obviously that's insane because I only have so much shelf space, and granted, I basically live in a library. My entire house has bookshelves in every single room. I mean, somebody asked me how many I had the other day. What is it? 9 in my living room, plus 3 in the kitchen, dining room area, and every one of the bedrooms upstairs has at least 1, 2, or 3 bookshelves. So we are stocked on shelving. But I still run out of space because, you know, I keep buying books because sometimes I need them for work purposes. I mean, my job is to create curriculum based on literature, so I mean, I'm always taking in new books, but also I buy things because I want them, because I love books. Books are special to me. They are not just stories. I mean, I do love stories in all its forms. I love reading novels, middle grade, young adult. I love reading graphic novels. I love watching movies and TV shows. I love stories because they just give me a way to escape into a new place and to experience things in a different way. And I love that I can see what it's like through someone else's eyes. And I mean, how else can you do that outside of stories? So I love books, but I also know that I need to be realistic and I have to get rid of things sometimes, and I do. So then also, I'm planning on having a store someday, hopefully in the near future, where I want a bookstore. I've always dreamed of having a used bookstore. I love going to bookstores. I love that, especially used bookstores where they have like the really old books and it just has that great smell, like an old library. I love that. That's one of my favorite things to do, is to find little stores like that, and so I've always wanted to have one. And so my husband and I have been planning this for like the last few years, that we're going to have a bookstore. So a lot of the books that I purge go into my inventory for that. I do have a storage unit so that we have a place to put them, and we currently have over 600 books in that inventory, so it's not a lot. We have a long ways to go, but it's a start. And so a lot of the books that I purge end up there. In the past, I've taken them to a recycling center where we can leave things and people can come take them for free. I've donated to the library. So there's lots of ways to send your book out into the world so that you're not just throwing it away, you're giving it a new life in a new home, in a place where someone might appreciate it. I'm calling this video KonMari-ing my books. Several years ago, I bought the book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. I can't find the book. It's missing. Surprise. In a house full of books, I would misplace something. So I read The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up a few years ago in the hopes of trying to organize my house better. It is not minimalism. I think a lot of people misinterpret her method as minimalism. It's not minimalism. I love the theory behind what she does. I love the idea of you only keep things that you love, that give you joy, that you want to have. Because a lot of us, I think, especially people who tend to hoard things, I think a lot of us keep things because we think we need to keep them. And we might need them someday. And so we keep things that we don't necessarily really ever want because we think we might need them. And so, while I will never be a minimalist, I can learn to let go of things I don't love anymore, or that I feel like isn't serving a purpose for me. With that in mind, I'm just going to show you guys what I have in my collection. It's not going to be complete. I'm not going upstairs because we're not going into the kids' rooms and all of that chaos. But I will show you the living room. That's the room I'm focusing on today. Because this is what I stare at all day on a daily basis. I'm always in this room. I'm always looking at these shelves. So these are the ones that I want to bring me the most joy. I'm going to make an attempt to purge some of these books. They are going into my store inventory, so I hope to give them a new home in a few years in my store. So anyway, let's just get started. This is going to be sort of a bookshelf tour, but not really. This whole section here, these 1, 2, 3, 4 shelves, these are all historical fiction and history that are what I would consider my books. These are adult books. I try to organize them by time period. So like you'll see at the very tippy top there, I have some prehistoric books, ancients, Middle Ages, and then it sort of just evolves into my Tudor collection. I have a lot of books about the Tudors, and this isn't even all of them. I have some more upstairs in my room that just didn't fit here anymore. So I have a lot of Tudor books, and then this down here goes into more modern historical fiction, and then this bottom shelf is literally just really tall books that didn't have a better place to go. And then this shelf over here, this begins our children's history section, more or less. There's some other stuff shoved in here too, but this is spine books up at the top. And then I have ancients through Middle Ages, on down through, I've got a lot of World War II books. You can see this entire shelf is World War II, but I also had some on that other shelf over there. Then down here is where the chaos really begins. This was meant to be a mythology and tales shelf, but I also have some art, some writing, and some other things. And then this bottom shelf here is poetry and Shakespeare and art, apparently, because there's some art stuff in here too. Over here I have American history. Same idea. These are children's books, more or less, but American history. And I organize through time period. And then we have these 2 shelves here. I don't know what's going on. I just sort of started shoving things here randomly, and there's no rhyme or reason. It's just books that I want to read sometime, or that I've already read and just stuck here. And yeah. And then the bottom shelf here is picture books. My daughter got the Amulet series for Christmas, so that's just sitting there in the middle. You move her pig stool, isn't he cute, out of the way. And then we have more picture books down on this bottom shelf here. And then this shelf is sort of a mishmash. And then this is my 2 world geography bookshelves full of picture books and chapter books and whatnot. A lot of nonfiction and things. And then this is more world geography, but like chapter books. And then these 3 shelves here are a mishmash of middle grade and some young adult. So for the purposes of this video and to make my life easier when I'm editing, I don't know that I'm going to like show you everything I'm doing, but I am going to show you what I'm pulling off the shelves and why. So I'll meet back with you and we'll see how this goes. Okay, so I just went through my adult historical fiction and history shelves, and I've pulled 3 books. I have The Druids by Peter Beresford Ellis. I literally have had this for like 25 years, and I've never read it. Back in the day, they used to have these book club things where it was sort of, do you remember like the music clubs? And now I'm going to age myself a lot. I mean, not that I didn't by saying I've owned this for 25 years, but when I was probably 15 or so, we would get in the mail these things where you could join the club and you could get 5 books for a penny. And then you would get, like, once you've joined, you have to buy 1 book a month for however long you're subscribed. Anyway, I remember circling all the books I wanted and begging my father to let me get them. Got 5 books for a penny, and then I think we bought one other one. I don't remember what else I got, but this is one of the books I wanted. And I went through a phase in my youth where I was obsessed with ancient religions, and I was fascinated by the Druids. And I remember thinking that that was just like a really interesting time period, a really interesting belief system, and I bought this. And honestly, I remember flipping through it a little bit, mostly just sort of picking here and there, but I've never actually read this. I've always meant to. I never have. I'm probably never going to, so it's time to let it go. I also grabbed the Secret Holocaust Diaries, The Untold Story of Nonna Bannister. I had this for several years. I have it on my Kindle as well. I don't need 2 copies. For whatever reason, I'm just not feeling drawn to it, so it's time to pass this on. And the last book I pulled from that shelf is Night by Elie Wiesel. I love this book. This is one of my favorite books on the Holocaust. But I recently bought myself this, which contains Night, Dawn, and Day, so it's the full trilogy, so I don't really need this one anymore because I have this copy, but all the other books get to stay. So now I'm moving on to this shelf, which is kind of my scary, intimidating shelf, just because I feel like I still have a child I'm going to be homeschooling for the next 8 years or so, and we might need any one of these books at any time. I don't know. So I'm going to have a hard time, but I'm going to do my best. We're going to get rid of some of these books. So I pulled like 13 books off of this shelf behind me right here. So I'm going to show you what I got here. I went through and literally went, will we ever actually read this? And the first one I pulled was Theris in His Town by Caroline Dale Snedeker, I don't know. Anyway, I bought this, I don't even know, maybe 15 years ago, and you can tell it's like still pristine because I don't think anyone has ever read this book. This is a book I picked up actually last year, so this is fairly recent purchase. Constantinopolis by James D. Shipman. I think I skimmed this briefly and just went, nope. This is historical fiction, but it's very military historical fiction, so it's very much about battles and the military stuffs that go into battles, and that might be great for some people. It just didn't appeal to me in the slightest. I have several books on Vikings, and after I looked at them, this one I think can go. It's hard to find good books on Vikings for children. I don't know why. It's a fascinating time period. Vikings were amazing. I love Vikings. But there's like nothing for children. And the little I can find for children is usually about how the Christians came and saved the Vikings. And I don't want to read that. And my kids don't want to read that. We just want cool books about Vikings. And I don't know that my kids have ever looked at this. I bought it at a library sale several years ago, and it's just been sitting and not getting looked at. I have other books that are better, I think, for Vikings, so we'll keep those and we'll get rid of this one. Another book is Young Joan by Barbara Dana. I bought this a million years ago. I don't even remember buying it, honestly, but potentially my oldest daughter has read it. She's not here today, so I can't ask her. But I don't know that much about it besides that this is supposed to be a historical fiction account of the childhood of Joan of Arc, who I find completely fascinating. I find that whole time period fascinating. This is very much a kind of religious-y book, and I don't think anyone in my house at this point is going to pick this up. Another book that I got at a used book sale a very long time ago, and just, we never use it. I don't know. It's very typical Usborne book. We don't use it. I don't see a reason to keep it. I had several books about Anne Frank and decided I don't need all of those books about Anne Frank, so I'm gonna let go of this one, Memories of Anne Frank, Reflections of a Childhood Friend. I skimmed this once and it was okay, but it wasn't anything gripping or anything that I really felt I needed to hang on to, so I'm passing it on. This is a book I actually bought recently for my daughter. She got really into World War II and I was trying to find things for her that would be age appropriate. This came as a recommendation. It's My Secret War Diary by Flossie Albright, My History of the Second World War, and the reason I'm letting it go is because it looks like this on the inside. Like, this is the layout of the entire book, and that is just super busy. My daughter did not like it at all, and I just don't see a reason to keep it. Somebody else will appreciate this, because I'm sure it's very good, but it just isn't going to work for us. And also in the historical fiction category, I have So Far from the Bamboo Grove. I just didn't love this. Didn't enjoy it, and I don't really think my kids will want to read it. Then down the bottom two shelves on this shelf are the poetry and Shakespeare and that sort of thing, tales, mythology. We didn't actually have a lot there that I wanted to get rid of, but I did find a couple things. I have a little golden book collection of animal tales that I just don't know. I'm sure my husband's gonna come home and be like, do not get rid of this, because he loves the little golden books, but we're not gonna read this again. And part of me wants to hang on to it for my grandchildren, but if I do that, do I need it on my shelf right now? Probably not. So if we don't put this in our store inventory, it might end up in a box saved for my potential future grandchildren who may want to have it. Then on the poetry shelf, I grabbed Something Big Has Been Here, poems by Jack Prelutsky. No one ever reads this. We have a lot of poetry books, and this one probably never comes off this shelf. I don't think we need to keep it. And then I had 3 duplicate copies of some Shakespeare plays. We don't need multiple copies of plays. So I have Henry V, Julius Caesar, and The Tempest. Before I move on, I missed a book on the poetry shelf, and that is A Book of Luminous Things, an international anthology of poetry. I bought this a couple of years ago when we did World Geography. My daughter didn't love it. I had another book that we liked better, so this is gonna go. Okay, I'm doing really good. I feel confident that I'm getting rid of some stuff. I'm making some space. We're making some room here for new things or other things that I have on other shelves that might want to come here and live on my living room shelves, so it's going well. Now I'm moving on to the American history and some miscellaneous shelves down below, so we'll see what I can pull from these. I pulled 18 books from the American history and miscellaneous and picture book shelves. So I have a Daniel Boone, one of those childhood famous Americans, Daniel Boone. Again, I don't know, I picked this up probably 17 years ago. Maybe one of my kids has flipped through this once, potentially, but otherwise it's just been taking up space and we don't need it. Next I have The King's Fifth by Scott Odell, and I'm probably gonna be controversial. This is a Newbery Award winner and whatnot, but it was so boring. I read this a couple of years ago to see if it would work in, I don't know what level I was doing. One of the levels of Build Your Library, I read this. I don't like it. It's boring, not a lot happens. I just don't want to keep it. I don't think anyone in my house is gonna read it. I had a whole bunch of these Dover coloring books, and we never use these. My kids despise books like this because it's so intricate and complicated. They all feel really overwhelmed. My kids aren't big on coloring anyway, and the ones that did enjoy coloring hated these kinds of coloring books, but somehow we kept acquiring them. I mean, I have Ancient Rome, Wonders of the World, Shakespeare, American Revolution, Colonial Williamsburg, and I just we don't need these. No one ever used them. None of them have been colored in. They're just taking up space. I also have this book about the presidents. It's literally just called The Presidents. It's a little bit old. It only goes up through George Bush 41. So it's a little bit dated. I got a book recently for level 12 that covers everyone, even up through Trump. So I figure if I'm going to have one book about presidents, it'll be the one that's updated. I also have the children's book of America by William J. Bennett. I just feel like we don't use it. My kids are all too old for it for the most part now. I mean, my youngest is 9. She's probably in the age bracket where this would be something she would use, but not feeling it, so I'm going to let it go. I also have The Tale of Squirrel Nutkin, which I love Beatrix Potter, don't get me wrong, but I have a collection and it has a story in it, so I don't feel like we also need this one. I also, same reason here, I have this story, Curious George Visits the Zoo. We have a collection that contains the story, so we don't really need it on its own. I have this Usborne Things People Do, which I again have had probably the entire time we've been homeschooling. So like 17 years, 16 years. We're done with this book. It's ready to go to somebody else. And honestly, my kids never really looked at it much. I think maybe we flipped through it a couple of times, but like it's pristine. This book is in perfect condition. And I also have this Troll Illustrated Classics Peter Pan. I have another abridged Peter Pan, and I have the real unabridged Peter Pan. I don't need this many copies of one story that my kids don't even love. On that same note, I have Miss Hickory, which is by Carolyn Sherwin-Bailey, another Newbery Award winner, I think. Yeah, my kids don't like this story. My daughter hated it. She found it disturbing in some aspects, and I don't know, I've just held on to it. Again, Newbery Award winner. But if we don't like it, why do I keep it? I also had this book about Robert E. Lee that it's like a library book. I don't even know where this came from. I have several books on the Civil War. I just don't think we need this one too. I also had this hefty textbook. Sometimes I pick these up at book sales or at our town recycling center when people get rid of things like this, and just to have like for reference, but we never use them. They're really boring. There's a reason I don't use textbooks in our homeschooling, and I don't know why I keep grabbing them just in case. And then I also have Illuminae, from the Illuminae Files by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I tried to read this and didn't like it. I passed it on to my daughter, who hated it. She's not into sci-fi. And then I passed it on to my son, who is into sci-fi, and he hated it. So I'm like, at this point, I think we don't need this in the house. And for some reason, I keep going, I might read it someday. I might read this someday. I might like it. Maybe I read it at the wrong time because everyone else loves it. But just because somebody else loves a book does not mean I'm going to love the book. And if I don't enjoy it, I don't need to keep it. I feel like I've been filming the entire day, and I have now done all of the bookshelves on this wall, and I've gotten rid of a huge stack of books. I have one more set of shelves, and then I'm going to say we're done with this video. So let me tackle these shelves and I'll be right back. So I just pulled 29 books off of that shelf there. The bulk of it were these. This was actually very hard, but I feel good about it now that I've made the decision. I've had these for a long time. My father sometimes will subscribe my kids to magazines. We used to get Discover Kids, Ranger Rick, that kind of thing. And there was a Highlights Top Secret Adventures thing, probably 10 years ago, and we were subscribed to that. And each month or so, and I don't think it was a month, I think it was every other week or something, we would get a thing in the mail with a book about a country and like puzzles and things to do, and it was cute. It wasn't anything deep. It was just something kind of light and fluffy, and when my kids were small, they enjoyed it. And then we ended the subscription because I was like, yeah, we have enough stuff. And so then I just had these on my shelf, and you know, every now and then I'm like, I'm gonna use these, and I'll pull one out and we'll learn about a country. But honestly, these aren't the most interesting to read. The pictures are okay, but it's just, I don't know, I don't think we need to keep these, and it's taking up a lot of space. And then I also pulled A Little Piece of Ground by Elizabeth Laird. I just didn't like this book. I read this, I think when it was in my pile for level 7, which is a world geography year, and I didn't really connect to the story. I don't even think I finished it. I think this was a DNF, and I was just not feeling it. So I don't know why I still have it. And the same goes for Chasing Vermeer, although I don't think it was in level 7. I had this, I don't know, I think I got this at a library sale a million years ago, and I've tried to read it maybe 3 times over the years, and it's just not working. I recently tried this as a read aloud with my youngest, and it just, I don't think we're ever going to read this. It just doesn't work for me. For whatever reason, I don't feel it, so I'm going to let it go. And then, again, like the other one, I have this edition of a Beatrix Potter book, Tale of Timmy Tiptoes. I have a collection that contains this. I don't need this. I have this picture book about Thanksgiving, The Pilgrim's First Thanksgiving by Anne McGovern. We don't use it very often. It's very much a whitewashed version of the story, and I'm not feeling keeping it. I have several Mother Goose books. This is the one I'm going to part with, and it's The New Adventures by Bruce Lansky. And then I actually bought this recently. This is the Wizard's Workshop, a science activity book, and I'm going to let it go, mainly because if you're going to call your book science, give explanations. That is the worst thing about this book, is that it's like, we're going to do magic, but call it science, but we're not going to tell you how it works. Like, there's no explanation for any of the experiments in this book, and that's not science. So I'm kind of still bitter about this book, because this is exactly what I was looking for in a potions course, and it didn't work out at all the way I'd wanted, so I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna do a final tally and tell you guys how many books I have just unhauled. I was gonna pick these up and show you, but then I realized that's stupid, that's too many. I have 63 books that I have just culled from my bookshelves. So that is 63 books that will no longer live in my house, taking up space and preventing me from being able to fit new books on my shelves. Will I stop buying books? No. That'll not happen, because I love books. I want to continue collecting them. This is not about minimalism. This is about letting things go that we don't need anymore. So that was really freeing. You should do this. You should get rid of some books. Let things go if they're not useful anymore. It's awesome. I now have more space, so I can put some new things out. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, let me know. I might film another one. I still have 2 more bookshelves over there that I haven't even touched. I still have bookshelves in the kitchen that I need to do. And the ones upstairs I need to tackle, but I'm thinking those can wait because they're out of sight, out of mind for the most part. But there's a lot up there that needs to get sorted. So if you liked this video, please hit the like button. Let me know why you liked it, if you think I should do more of these. So thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.